Bye, Scott. All right, so the meeting is called to order. Can we, what are we doing? Call roll?
Sure. I will call the roll for you. Adele,
Thank you. Here.
Alexander Black. Not yet. Chris Trent. Chris, I see you.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, there you go. Susan Shelby.
Here.
Jesse Sanford, I've not seen him yet. Chip Meehan here. Melanie Winter.
Here.
Tony Knight.
Here.
Andy Epstein.
Present.
Scott Mandel does not need to be present for this. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have a quorum.
Great. Thank you. Do we have any announcements by government representatives or any guests that would like to say anything? No, I'm not seeing any hands raised. I will ask for public comment on matters not on within our jurisdiction, but not on the agenda. Do we have caller and user has raised his one who you've raised your hand. Go ahead, caller in user 1.
How much time do I have?
How much time do you need?
Just give me 15 seconds when you want me to stop my rant, okay?
Okay, cool.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, Department of Neighborhood Empowerment and that bitch named Beltran, that little skank, she never supports any of the committees or even the neighborhood councils. She does whatever she wants, and you get these parasites that come on, in which one did not show up tonight, to assist to, rather than saying call 311, is to actually get the principals available so that a committee member like the Madam Chairperson could contact and get something done. They always like spinning your wheels, and they're just useless. I think I trust a used car salesman more than the people at Dunn, and especially that Beltran. What has she done? I don't know. What's her accomplishment? All she does is word salads, and the last time I sued and she was supposed to show up for a deposition, they settled with me because of a Brown Act violation, because that little tramp did not want to be cross-examined about some of the racism in her office. You know, I wanted to ask what she thought of Jewish people and black people. There's a lawsuit going on where Simi Park was a former director, had to go look for another job. So I'd like to know how Dunn is supporting the Sustainability Committee. They're probably not doing much. I do have to say, whoever did the agenda, I appreciate the points of authorities. That was very nice. So there's really nothing more to say. It's better than Van Nuys Neighborhood Council. They normally do bullshit, and they always are not prepared for their agendas. Thank you.
Thank you, caller and user 1. Thank you for your comments. Now we're moving on to motion on the zoo alternative 1.5. Currently, the only option available for a comment is alternative 1.5. In earlier discussions, alternative 1 was and remains superior to any other proposed alternatives. However, 1.5 is what the city is asking the community to comment on at this time. And just so you guys know, I wrote that because there was some question that we should support something, not just be against something. But all they're offering us to do is comment on 1.5. So, and we can change this whole whereas thing. That was just what Diana Nicole thought was the way to write it. But we could reverse it where we put the end first, and then we have the reasons why we oppose the thing. So I'm going to have to read this thing, which is kind of dreadful, but I'm not going to read the whereases. I'm just going to read the list. Okay. The project refers to development of 16.5 undeveloped mature California woodland and chaparral acres for new development located in the eastern portion of Griffith Park, which is a watershed and home to a number of threatened and rare species and provides habitat for a wide range of native vegetation and wildlife, including mountain lion. Older woodlands and chaparral provide the most above ground carbon potential on Earth, with mature woodlands and older trees driving most accumulation of carbon in the critical next few decades, left vulnerable to development, although they cannot fulfill these vital functions. The California Global Warming Solutions Act, AB 32, defined thresholds are to reduce carbon monoxide emissions by 2020 to 1990 levels, with further 80% CO2 reduction by 2050. That means every ton of CO2 emitted into the atmosphere by older woodlands and chaparral conversion, plus the loss of, sorry, this is so small, future increases in tree carbon sequestration represents a measurable potential adverse environmental effect. CDFW is California's trustee agency for fish and wildlife resources and holds those resources in trust by statute for all people of the state Fish and Game Code 711.7 Subdivision A and 1802 Public Resources Code 21070 California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA. Guidelines 15886 Subdivision A, CDFW in its trustee capacity has jurisdiction over conservation, protection, and management of fish and wildlife, native plants, and habitat necessary for biologically sustainable populations of those species, ID 1802. Similarly, for purposes of CEQA, CDFW is charged by law to provide as available biological expertise during public agency environmental review efforts, focusing specifically on projects and related activities that have the potential to adversely affect state fish and wildlife resources. The zoo has failed to adequately respond to many deficiencies in the Focused Environmental Impact Report, FEIR, including deficiencies found by California Department of Fish and Wildlife, CDFW, and now erroneously proposes to move forward by requesting comments to be limited to the chapters, including in the current Focus FREIR. The CDFW finds evidence that adverse impacts of California area expansion will be significant. The CDFW finds removing coast live oak plant community found in the project area may increase sediment, debris, and pollution input into streams, and the CDFW is concerned that the project would result in erosion and pollutants that could affect the quality of the Los Angeles River, streams and canyons, and open space surrounding the LA Zoo, and will likely adversely impact and what's that word? Ephemeral drainage located in the bottom of the existing canyon. The CDFW finds the project may result in the loss of riparian habitat. The CDFW finds it unlikely that there is ample land available to mitigate the loss of area affected at the proper mitigation rate of 5:1 by area affected under CEQA protocols and 4:1 tree replacement under the city's protected tree ordinance. The Los Angeles Audubon Society finds that it is not appropriate to blast a canyon through a ridgeline in the Santa Monica Mountains for a condor display in the name of conservation, particularly when the captive breeding of condors in the back of the house areas at the LA Zoo has been successful for over 30 years. Moving wildlife out of the path of immediate harm as proposed in the FEIR is not a mitigation measure because any suitable destination site would likely already be occupied. Absent appropriate mitigation, wildlife will die. The survival and well-being of the city's residents depends directly on ecosystem services, including oxygen generation, water purification, topsoil creation, biodegradation, and waste removal. These and many other services are built directly from an integrated community of natural biodiversity. Biodiverse landscapes provide benefits to residents such as increased productivity, fewer sick days, greater sense of place and community, and shared sense of place. The Earth faces a global extinction crisis never before witnessed by humankind, with scientists predicting that more than 1 million species are in extreme danger of extinction in the coming decades. According to a recent article in the New York Times, California has the most imperiled biodiversity of any state in the contiguous United States. Watershed and wildlands are important carbon sinks that can help moderate the impacts of climate change by absorbing more carbon from the atmosphere than they release, and are linked to increased precipitation and water availability. Wildlands and watersheds serve an essential role in preserving natural resources and wildlife habitats, protecting clean water and clean air, and providing access to nature and an essential connection for people of all ages and abilities to the life-enhancing benefits of nature and the outdoors. The city has been working to address climate change and improve its relationship to the natural world by protecting and enhancing its biodiversity through the creation of Biodiversity City Index and wildlife corridors. Governor Newsom has launched initiatives to protect 30% of natural areas by 2030, as recommended by scientists to better protect these possible mass extinctions. The protection of the 16.5 acres of wildland would help meet Governor Newsom's vital 30 by 30 goals and complement the city's biodiversity protection and wildlife habitat connectivity. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the SCNC cannot support alternative 1.5 in its current form and is against alternative 1.5. Okay. So
I
Do you
move we
think-
adopt the resolution.
you move we adopt the resolution. Do we need to any discussion? Do we have a second on that move? Anyone want a second? Or do you want to discuss it first? What? Let's have a second so we can discuss. We don't have to pass it. You just have to second it so we can make a discussion.
I'll second it.
Great, thanks. So now discussion. Susan?
What I wanted to bring up, last meeting, we were talking about different endangered species, and subsequently I found out that there's Nevins barberry in the footprint of the area that they're talking about getting rid of. Diana suggested I speak with Dan Cooper. I contacted him and he said he didn't really know anything about it, and to contact this guy, Jerry, who's friends of Griffith Park. I contacted him and he basically said that, yes, they know that Nevins barberry is there. They've even mapped it out and they don't care. And I also brought up and he mentioned that the Crotch's bumblebee, that's another one that is an endangered species. He said, well, it isn't really found there, which actually isn't true. There's at least one record of one in Griffith Park, which means there's probably more. And I also asked him to look into shoulder band Trask's shoulder band snail, because those are critically endangered. And I'm pretty sure there's somewhere in Griffith Park. Just take some looking. Anyway, so just wanted to bring that up, that I'd communicated with him, and, I'm in favor of what we're proposing.
I made a mistake. I was supposed to do public comment first, but thank you for that, Susan. And do you feel, just before I go on to Lionel, who's the only public commenter, and Colin user one, before I go on to you guys, Susan, do you feel like the whereases cover the extinction of, sensitive habitat? I mean, do you feel like that motion covers those things?
It would be nice to mention these species that are critically endangered, because those usually come up when there's any kind of EIR. Obviously, I think Crotches and the Nevins barberry were mentioned in the EIR. I don't think the Trask's shoulder band snail was. And there's probably some other endangered species in there, but
Would
Those are
you
the
just
ones.
jot something down and tell me which one of the whereases it would go in? Because that, I would love to add that stuff.
okay, I'll have to look at it. I'll get
Okay,
back to you on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, sorry about the not going to you guys first. Lionel, do you want to make a public comment?
Yes, thank you. Pleasure meeting you all again. Is this, remind me again, what item are we on?
We're on the first motion about the zoo magnet.
Okay, is this?
yeah.
Is this the one that relates that they tried to do the zoo expansion?
Yes.
Okay, I believe that I stated before that I'm against it because I'm concerned about how they want to harm some portion of the Griffith Park. I'm not sure. Will you just describe and about the condor, correct?
Yes.
So
Yes. Mhm.
yes, I'm for animal welfare and the safety and welfare of the poor animals, but at the same time, I feel like they shouldn't do any further land development in Griffith Park, even though it's within the LA Zoo. But yes, that's what I'm concerned about. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Lionel. Call-in user 1. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. Before I start, are there any attorneys on the committee?
No.
Okay, I'm going to put my legal hat on for you. I'm not going to address the merit. This is terribly written. I see numerous errors, and I'm not blaming you or being judgmental. Do you know the definition of whereas? That is basically indicates a contrast between two facts or ideas. You're just making statements in which I'm not addressing the statements themselves, but whereas is not, I don't see it as applicable for legislative writing on the resolution. Second of all, there's some grammar issues on here. And I'm a stickler on something called Blue Book style manual on how to do citations and so forth. You might want to consider doing endnotes or an appendix. There's several other issues regarding you're referring to other type of citations where you really need to put it better for someone to better understand if they want to see the merits of the citations and so forth. Another issue you should probably consider, and I know on the board you do have an attorney, there's something called the IRAC method, IRAC. It's basically issue, rule, analysis, and conclusion. And that should be written based on something like this, should be written as something called a letter brief. That's a little bit more advanced, but someone to really read this and get to your point, you put so much out there, you just need to hit maybe 2 or 3 points, and that's it. You'll get someone that will just get drowned in words and so forth. But to me, it looked like you copy and paste some stuff, which is fine, but it doesn't flow. It really doesn't. You know, one thing is that quotation on the word moving or move, it should be displaced. There's just a lot of stuff you can concise, but it's up to you what you want to do or not want to do. And if you need me to give you access, I'm a member of the Los Angeles Law Library. If you need access to one of the pro bono attorneys or something like that, or me, we'll be glad to try to assist. But it just get your point across a lot better. I'm not addressing the merit. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your comments. Very helpful. Other comments? Sorry, other comments. Melanie. Melanie, you had your hand up.
Thanks. I just, it might be a bit to unpack, but.
Well, is that the end of public comment?
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't have any other public comments on the
Why don't
list.
you declare it that way just for the recording?
Sorry, yeah, end of public comment, sorry. Public comment is ended, and now we're back to the board.
Sorry, Melanie.
Melanie, go ahead, sorry.
I just want to note that most of the references to watershed in this document misunderstand what a watershed is. It's something I love seeing people use the term, but more often than not, it's used inappropriately as it is here. The zoo property is not a watershed. So I just wanted to note that, and maybe we can just take a look at those instances so we don't embarrass ourselves. And in future, if anybody wants to talk about what a watershed actually is, so we can use it in its appropriate context, I'm happy to do that.
Can you, all right, yeah, okay, go ahead, Scott.
Thanks. I just wanted to ask that, although you don't need to do this in the motion, if you do pass this and it goes to the board, if you can address what happened in the previous round of the zoo plan. I think it was a 1.5 that people were supportive of, and it kind of explained.
No, I did explain it. You weren't, if you didn't read the intro, it's explained.
Yeah, but I mean, there was the climbing wall and the wine and the vineyard and how much of the parking lot, and it seemed to tell us not just what you didn't want to do, but what was acceptable in one of the other zoo vision plans. So people had.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the beginning. I say that alternative 1 was read the intro before you go to the whereases, and you'll see they're not the problem that we have here is that the zoo is not offering us the ability to comment on alternative 1, which was the alternative we were in favor of.
Sure. Well, that I
And
understand, but I mean, you could explain to the board as to how we got here, what happened. You know what I'm saying? Because
Okay.
originally it was the elephant habitat. I think it was the parking lot expansion, the climbing wall, if I'm not mistaken, and there was a winery or a vineyard or something that was going to be planted, and a lot of people wanted a bigger parking lot and wasn't there also like a tram, a sky tram, and all these other attractions for the Olympics? I mean, this is what they're going to ask. I'm just telling
but
you.
it's not, you can't, okay, but we can't talk about all of that and all of this
No, I know. Just
in
explain how
emotion.
we got there.
But
Just-
that would have to be, what we would have to do is explain, sort of explain the history of the zoo and where we are, and then go into the motion.
Yeah, a little intro as to how
Okay.
what happened. I know you mentioned that they're only offering comment, they're only accepting comment on this particular plan. I get it, because I was at the meeting when the other plans were all discussed, but I'm saying the board may not be able to remember all that, and just something, not for your motion, just to be able to present that to them when you introduce the motion. That's all. I'm not
Okay.
commenting on the motion. I'm just saying
Okay.
to set it up.
Okay, great.
That's-
Good idea. Other comments on this motion? Go ahead, Andrew.
I do tend to agree with whoever brought up the point with the whereas. I mean, if you are gonna rewrite this, I would just take that out. It's a compare and contrast word. So if this is a motion, just state the motions. That's just my 2 cents on that. I don't know if you're gonna revise this at all. It sounds like you're gonna have some more input, but
Well, I just want to get everyone to weigh in, and then we'll see what we're gonna do.
all right.
So any other comments?
Yeah, it's Chip.
Yep.
Adele, when you read it, it read fine. I think the whereas is unnecessary. And if people that use whereas professionally find it to be inaccurate or misused, I don't think it adds anything to it. So I think we could actually peel whereas off, as Angie just said. And there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of, and it seems that it is a bit of a little bit of everything that's in here. In terms of like, there's multiple different topics against which this particular proposal could be measured, and I just wonder if it's too much. That's what I got.
Thanks. Tony?
I was just going to say that in the school district, when we used to do resolutions of the school board, which is common, by the way, for school districts to do resolutions across the state, they would typically use the whereas statements. That's very common. And so I don't think it's one way or the other matters whether you use it or you don't use it. And then otherwise, what I would just kind of say is that I think sometimes we have a hard time getting work done, and we make perfect the enemy of good, and that we need to get this done so we can move on to something else. You know, frankly, I'm not interested in sitting here for 2 hours to talk about this when we've talked about it since the summer, you know, and I think what you have is a really good resolution. It really does cover a lot of things we've talked about in the past and keep bringing up. And if there's a word missing here or there, or whatever it is, I don't think that's substantive in terms of communicating to the neighborhood council what we feel. And I think it's better to do it earlier rather than continue to wait. And that way, if there's any back and forth, then we can adjust it before it is really too late and things have gone on. So, you know, I don't mean to rush things, but I do think that there is something about getting this done and moving on to the next topic, or we could debate it until next year, you know.
I second that motion. I agree.
So you're saying,
Sounds like
You
a
know,
cry for a vote.
I 100% agree with caller in your user number one. I wish he was on our committee so that I could give him the fucking thing and he could rewrite it for us before it came to us, you know, but I didn't write it and I didn't go over it because I'm doing 500 other things.
So do you want to have a vote?
You
on
know,
this?
Great. You have a great resolution. There's nothing wrong with it.
it's good enough. I would,
Better than
I personally hate the whereas because it makes me, that's why I didn't read it with it, because I hate them. So I would accept the friendly amendment of taking the whereases out. And I would also like to start with the end statement and then have the reasons. I like that way better. My brain works like that. In other words, go look at the thing. Instead of therefore it is resolved, just the Studio City Neighborhood Council cannot support alternative one in its current form. And here are the reasons, and then go list the reasons.
Can you just do can you just do a rewrite, email to the committee, and we do a email vote?
No, that doesn't work that way, Andy. It's got to be done now. But if we just talk it through and then take the
all
vote,
right.
that would work.
We could, if we talk it through, I mean, I'm telling you then, and then
So you're proposing then that
Don't bury the
I
lead.
would like to also, I would like to do two things. I would like to have two friendly amendments, which is I would like to have Melanie rewrite the watershed thing. And I would like to have Susan add in the list of endangered species and put that in.
you want them to do that now?
Well, I mean, we can vote on it, and in concept, we have to redo it. Yeah.
I mean, you can't change it after we vote because that would nullify the vote.
So Susan, can you do that?
Yeah, I don't think I would add a whole bunch of stuff. The first bullet point talks about endangered species. So you could just in parentheses list the three: Crotch's bumblebee, Nevin's barberry, and Trask's shoulder-band snail.
After the mountain lion thing?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Hold on, I gotta switch to my Word document because I'm in my PDF. So I can put it in there.
You want me just to write it down here for you and then I can get it
Yes,
back?
please. Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, so after mountain lion,
You have crotchet, bumblebee,
It's Crotch's.
crotches. Sorry.
CROTCH''S.
so it'll say for a wide range of native vegetation and wildlife, including mountain lion,
Well, these are critically endangered. Well, mountain line's not critically endangered, but the
Right.
others are.
So Crotched Mountain, I'm sorry.
Crotches,
Bum-
CROTCH''S, bumblebee,
Bumblebee,
Nevins, Barbary,
Nevins.
and Trask's shoulder band snail.
Okay.
And that's it.
And Melanie, are you still here? Did you go away?
No, I'm here, sorry.
Um,
So under number 4, in the first, what is currently the first whereas, just delete after which is, delete a watershed and,
I'm not there with you. So under 4, we have 1, 2, 3. The 4 is CDFW. What is the first?
under number 4, the first whereas,
Oh, the first. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
second line, end of it, which is,
Uh,
delete a watershed
yeah.
and then on the following page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7th whereas begins whereas watershed and wildlands, delete watershed and.
Yep.
The next whereas, delete and watersheds.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Anything else? Hold on a second. You have caller number 1, Adele, too, but let me just, before we do that, go back. So we're going to start off with the SCNC cannot support. That's what we're starting with. The NCSC cannot support alternative 1.5 in its current form and is again 1.5.
I think you're gonna have to say the SNC cannot support alternative 1 in its
1.5.
and for the following reasons.
Okay.
And then and I don't mind taking out the whereases because I hate it. It's just irritates me to no end. So, and I'm a big baby about that. I don't know why. So, and then it's just a list of reasons, which I think is what caller and user 1 was basically saying.
So then at the
One of
end
the
of
things. Yeah.
at the end of this, do you want to have a summary? So should we say we were in favor of the
Yes.
original?
Yes. Yes.
We remain.
But that's not part of the motion. That's more of like sort of background. Do you know what I mean?
Well, if we said we remain in favor of the original version 1.0, which maintains the greatest,
Alternative 1 is what it's called. Yeah. Mhm.
so we remain in favor of alt 1, which preserved the greatest amount of environment, which provided the greatest environmental benefit. Has that?
Yeah.
We remain in favor of
Oh,
alt.
it was the environmentally superior.
Okay.
Now, if we're doing this kind of a little bit of editing, I wouldn't mind if caller and user 1 had very specific grammatical horrifying things in here, and it wasn't too much. If he would like to speak up, that would be awesome. Go ahead, caller and user 1, if you care to do so.
Thank you very much. When you do legislative writing like this, I'm going to give you what your call tag should be. Let me go right here. I was just doing some stuff right here. The top heading should be opposition to LA Council file. I assume you're talking about 21-0828.
Yeah.
If it's the right council file, then in parentheses 2022, unless amended, and then you put the title of it, the Los Angeles Zoo Vision Plan and so forth. That's what you start with.
Opposition to council file, and then council file, whatever it is.
No. Madam Chair, it's opposition to LA council file, and actually council file on a abbreviation should be C period F period, but I'm not, you shouldn't go there because you'll deal with the members of the public.
Right.
So it should be opposition to LA council file, and I assume it's council file 21-0828.
Yeah.
Then you put in, what I do is parentheses 2022, because sometimes, and I don't think they do it in this jurisdiction, they recycle numbers. And then you put a space unless amended, because you want them to amend it, I assume.
Correct.
Okay. That the reason why you put unamended doesn't make you look like a bunch of jerks.
Right. Got it.
And then you put dash, then the title, and the title that I received was the Los Angeles Zoo Vision Plan / Environmental Impact Report / actually they should be semicolons, but that's their writing style. Infrastructure of facility of improvements. So that just tells them right off the bat, you're in opposition unless amended. And if they actually care, they might say, what do you want amended?
Hmm.
One thing that's very important is to get the legislative file and also look at the intent. That's a little deep and does take a lot of time. But also what you probably need is, let me see who introduced this. Who introduced this? There's an environmental state clearinghouse number. Do you know what that is?
I don't have any of that with me.
Numbers, environmental state house clearing, that looks like it's a state issue.
Okay, you're like over our pay grade right now, so okay.
No, it says reference numbers on the docket or the register of actions right here on the file, on the council file management system. Have you had a chance to review that?
No.
Okay. Did you want me to print it out and email it to you right now?
Sure.
Okay, stand by. Please move forward. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to ask for email. Thank you.
But wait, before you go, so this is just the introduction to it.
That's the head note.
The head notes. And then where do you go from there? Is it okay to just do our list of things, or was there anything?
If you want, you can do it in crayon. I'm just trying to have words.
No. I'm asking, is there anything?
I just want you to have it concise, and I want the reader to say, hey, that was a good, and I understand the 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 points why this should not be supported. And when you say amended, you should say what could be done to resolve the issue to provide support.
Okay.
Like yin yang.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right.
What's your email so I could send this on over to you? Or give me a board member's public email and they could.
I'm just going to give you my public email because I don't.
Oh yeah, public. Yeah, I'm not too sure if you're a board member. I don't know.
Adele, I'm just giving you my private email because maybe I shouldn't do that, huh?
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay.
SCNC.
What is it? What is?
Is there a board member on there now? I could just send
Go
it to them.
A Slaughter at SCNC Studio City Neighborhood Council.org.
Who's that?
Me. That's me.
A Slaughter at Studio City Neighborhood Council.org.
Okay, I'll send that off in about 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
You want to come back to this?
No, I wanted just.
I mean, you have a motion on the table, so if you want the amendments approved, then I have to okay the amendment, and so does the person who seconded it, I believe, which I do. The two that you mentioned, the things that you mentioned here, I would approve those as friendly amendments to the resolution. And the person who seconded it would have to agree, and then we can vote on it.
That was me. I agree. I believe we can go to vote.
Let's call for a vote. Okay, so all in favor of passing it as amended?
Well, actually, let me start off and do this. Adele,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Chris Trent,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Jesse is not here. Chip is here. I am a yes. Melanie,
Yes.
thank you. Tony Knight,
Yes.
Andrew Epstein.
Andrew,
Andrew, do you vote? Do you have a yes or no vote on that?
Yes.
Thank you. Unanimous, it is approved with the friendly amendments that were made.
great. Man.
Moving on to 5.
Moving on to 5. I'm sorry, I'm lost my agenda. Okay. 5 is discussion of Studio City Neighborhood Council and Studio City beautification work hand in hand with state officials to beautify freeway and on and off ramps and mediums that have been neglected for years. The Caltrans program is in place where drought tolerant plants and hardscape are being installed to both beautify, save water, and prevent homeless from living on the freeways. And I would like Andrew to talk about this.
So there's a program that Caltrans is doing that they haven't really done in years. They really haven't maintained our freeways. So an investigative reporter at Channel 4 looked into this, and it's a combination of things. It's maintenance and it's homeless. It's debris, but it's also homeless safety. So they Channel 4 approached Caltrans, and apparently some homeowners along the 101 in Hollywood have been very concerned about certain areas, just, becoming homeless camps. And so Caltrans started a program of removing the camps and replacing them with large boulders, drought tolerant landscape. So it's a combination project, but I noticed it stopped in Hollywood, from downtown to Hollywood. I don't know if they're going to continue into the valley. I actually sent off an email to one of the directors of Caltrans, and he did respond tonight, coincidentally. And he says he's going to tie me into somebody who's working on the program, so I'll find out. But I just think it's something that this committee can do. It's apparently money that the state has, and if you drive our freeways, if you drive our on ramps, our off ramps, the medians, everything, they're just it's a mess. I don't know if the program. I don't know if you've noticed our on ramps and off ramps. It's just blight. It's just ugly. I don't know if this program deals with that as well. I'll get into that hopefully further with further communication with this Caltrans member. So I'm open to any ideas or feedback or anything on this project.
First, we go to public comment. If there anybody from the public has comment. No one, not seeing any hand raised. Call in user 1 or nobody. Oh, Brandon Marino, no one. Let's go to Melanie Winter.
Yeah, so this is something that, it's really pleased to see Caltrans stepping up on changing out the vegetation along the rights of way. If one of my pet peeves is driving in a rain on the freeway and watching the rainbirds go full speed, as has been the state for decades. So it's good that they're transitioning to something more sustainable with the choice of plants, although I haven't looked at the plant palette, it may be completely insane. What I do oppose is the significant increase in hardscape. So they're pouring a lot of concrete and shoving river rock into it as a deterrent. We need to be in places that are currently vegetated and are currently healthy soils. As you know, we need to protect those. And adding hardscape, covering up healthy native soils is not a recommended approach. If they want to plant certain types of plants that can be a deterrent, that's great. Pouring a crap ton of concrete and using river rock in this way is not good. It follows a pattern that the Bureau of Street Services was marching down with all speed and zero public review of pouring concrete and putting river rock in all these right by all these alongside curb ramps, which was completely nonsensical and absolutely Looney Tunes. And it took a year of public comment and outcry before they finally reversed course. And I think this is something very similar, and it just needs to be adapted. They should be applauded for moving to more climate appropriate landscaping, but the hardscaping and the river rock is not okay. It increases runoff. It increases heat. It's, if your objective is to effectively, install a 4118 on the rights of way, then you can accomplish that through a different approach than increasing risks to everybody, which is what this does.
I can tell you that just from what I've seen, the only thing they've been planting is agave, very large agave. So
they could do better, but I can see that agave are meant to have, meant to be painful. They could do a better job of plant selection to reap additional benefits out of that and build healthier soil, and they should get rid of the river rock. But there should be some public comment period on this, and this is just not something that works well for us, in my opinion.
Tony?
Yes, thanks. Yeah, I would agree with what Melanie said, and that sometimes the motivation for doing these things is sort of backwards. But I would like to say that if you drive, I used to drive to Agora Hills every day to my job in Oak Park, and I would get on the freeway at Coldwater Canyon, and I thought I was getting on the freeway in some third world country because I'd never seen such a mess in my life as the litter and the crap all over the place there. And no one ever cleaned it up except maybe every few months. After complaining a lot to Studio City Residents Association, the councilman, the assembly member, then they would go out and they would do a cleanup. And then they would get worse again after months. Whereas if you get off the freeway at Canaan Road, you see the incredible landscaping that they've done with a lot of native plants, Carex panza, all kinds of good stuff, beautiful medians when you get off the freeway there on state property. And so I'm assuming that was done by the city of Agora Hills more than the state being favorable to one area over another one. But it doesn't look right. It doesn't look right that in certain areas of the city or the area of the state, that there's beautiful medians that are done correctly, and in other areas they're just abandoned. The other thing I was going to say is the irrigation doesn't work in any of these. So if they're planting things that need water, they're not going to get watered and they're not going to get maintained. So if they would plant, as Melanie suggests, native plants that could grow with minimal amounts of water, maybe until they get started, that would be a good idea rather than putting invasive plants in there. And then planting rocks and cactuses just to deter homeless people, personally, I think is ridiculous. I mean, I think that the homeless people, we need to help them find other places to live. And it should be just that you're not allowed to live on the side of the freeway. It is dangerous, and it is there's no sanitation, and it is not appropriate. But then I feel like I'm the only person who feels that way, that everybody seems to think that it's okay that anybody can live wherever they want to, a park, on the freeway. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I don't think the idea of putting rocks and agaves there to keep people from living, it seems a bit ridiculous. I don't know.
So the first step in the program is they go on the freeway and they talk to these people, and they offer them help, they offer them solutions, they offer them places to live. They do all that due diligence first. I'm not defending the program per se. I have issues with it too. But what I'm proposing is dialogue with our state representatives, Caltrans, and I know we have a new assembly member, I believe Laura Friedman, I think, is new, and she, I believe, represents this area. I just want to get a conversation going, because I like what you just said about driving onto a freeway. And I mean, it's an eyesore. You drive to Orange County and their freeways are just sparkling. They're clean. they're done. And yet we're all in one state. And I'm not sure how Los Angeles is completely underserved in terms of the freeway that we drive on every day, or some of us used to drive on every day. So I'm just proposing right now, just trying to get a conversation going with those that can make this happen. So I'm not saying it's the perfect solution, but it's a major problem.
Chip?
I agree with what everyone said so far, but why don't we just encourage Andy to continue to talk to the contacts who have gotten back to him, which by itself is a victory. There seems to be money there. The policy seems to be, if the execution is flawed, the intent is laudable and serves our mission. So let's see what he can come back with, and let's see how much flexibility there is. And hopefully they say, we have all this money, Mr. Epstein, would you please help us find a way to spend it?
I would agree, and I also would suggest sort of leaning towards what Melanie was talking about, is sort of educating them about hardscape. It's kind of in my opinion, it's kind of a dumb thing to like say, well, we're going to plant agave and boulders and that's going to discourage homeless people, because from what I know of homeless people, if they're going to live there, they don't care if there's boulders and agave, they'll live there. And they don't care if there's native plants, they don't care what they're, and so all we can do is do what's right, and then hope that we can make something that's worth having there. And I'm thinking of, we're trying to get 30 and 30, right? So planning, finding a way to plant native plants. I mean, there's some beautiful plants that grow, and they're not conducive to lying around in, but they're beautiful, and they attract butterflies, and it'll change the landscape there. It'll change the way we feel about it. And I don't think boulders and agave is going to do that. I think that's gross. But I think, some really interesting plants that don't require a lot of water, that are native to California, will, we can make something really amazing. And I would love to see us do that. So, it looks like Scott has some, and I'd like to be in on the conversations, Andrew, with you and them. I think that would be great. Yeah. Scott?
So Caltrans made a presentation to us back in March. I was actually the only one who showed up. They invited Studio City, Toluca Lake, and the other neighborhood council that's adjacent to the 170 and the 101. And the presentation, the agave was pretty much just for the portion of the 101. They had pictures of the actual hardscape and the artwork and all the other heavy duty fencing. The stuff they're doing on the 170 has a whole bunch of other native plants. There's pictures of them all. I forwarded you the PDF so you can see they're actually very specific based on the exact location, the off-ramp, the on-ramp, whether the freeway is going east or west or north or south. And it's very detailed, and it gives you the budget and the time frame and maps and all that stuff. So it's fairly detailed. And I know, yeah, Andrews probably has more to say on this, but that's, Adele, if you want to transmit it to the rest of the committee, it was a fairly detailed presentation, and I actually felt bad for Caltrans because I was the only one who showed up. Thanks.
Did you send the notice out to the rest of us?
You just sent it to me?
That came, yes, you're copied on it. You were copied. I wasn't board president at the time. It came to the whole board, and then it was sent to the committees. So I don't know why nobody showed up, but after the fact, I sent the presentation to everybody. I just sent it now to Chip and to Adele, so you could transmit it to the rest of the.
I'll forward it on to you right now.
Yeah, they were fairly detailed, and they have a ton of money, or a lot of money.
Is there a timeline on there as well?
Yes, timeline as well.
Okay, that would help, because I'm just starting conversations with Caltrans and hopefully Laura Friedman's office.
Great.
Well, we'd like to weigh in on prioritizing healthy soil and a more diverse plant palette, at least in our jurisdiction, and then less hardscape, please.
Yeah. Okay, so do we
Alright.
need to take any action on this then? No.
Because I have to go to work.
I just sent it off to you guys
Okay,
on
great.
your email. Okay, so we don't need to take any action, so let's move on to, what are we on now, 6?
Yeah, I don't think we need to go through this. Alex, if you disagree, please let me know, but just giving you guys a thumbnail, a tease for what we'll come back to you guys with in January. There has been a tremendous amount of work done by many members of this committee on the ad hoc committee that has been investigating the Harvard Westlake River Park proposal. Initially, when Harvard Westlake first proposed their athletic development, there were concerns amongst the residents about artificial turf. As we've dug into this, and Alexander Black has got a doctorate now in artificial turf, we discovered that what made us uneasy before, with new research that's available.
You know what, I have to interrupt you. I didn't go, did I go to public comment on that last thing? I think I did, didn't I? Because coloring user 1 has his hand up and I don't want to be,
You
coloring user
did
1,
offer public comment on the last one.
I did?
so.
Okay. So we're going on to this next one. Go ahead. Sorry, Chip, go ahead.
So as we looked into the artificial turf for the Harvard Westlake proposal, we all in the ad hoc committee became ever more concerned about the idea of artificial turf being rolled out into the community. We have objected as a committee, which will be forwarded to the board, on the Harvard Westlake project, partly because of the inclusion of artificial turf. And we have discussed coming up with a digest version of the concerns about large-scale artificial turf installations. The thought was, when we get something concise, this committee could share it with the other sustainability committees of the neighborhood councils, and then everyone in those sustainability committees can reach out to their own jurisdiction. The hope would be that we can create a groundswell of neighborhood council boards going to the city requesting a moratorium, and an urgent look at the newly available research to find out whether or not this should happen at all. So that's sort of the thumbnail sketch of what's going on. Alex, did I miss anything?
No. It's fine the way it is for the moment. I can't really add anything at this time. I'm still trying to get something concise together.
So we'll work on something and shoot it to you guys after the first of the year for our first meeting in January.
Absolutely.
We can make a vote on that to move it forward to the board. We're not there yet.
Okay. Great. Go to public comment with call-in user 1. Go ahead,
Thank you very
Colin.
much, Madam Chair, I emailed you.
Oh, awesome.
Second of all, I hope this project goes through, and I'm going to tell you why. A lot of developers in my particular area think they can do whatever they want, but they never get around when I throw something called a writ of prohibition and a couple other causes of action. There's one thing that nobody ever looks on this, that I hope when they build half of it, I'll be glad to be coming in. It's under the fire code, California Fire Code, in which you cannot, under preemption, cannot get a variance on it. There's several court opinions on the code I'll be citing, and there's no way for them to get around it. So I hope when they build half of it, they'll have half of their investment in there, and then a shithole like me will come by, and then all of a sudden, that's a problem. So you could talk about all this, nothing wrong with what you guys are doing, but that's what I'm going to be doing. It's a very easy thing. For $435, I could just stop the whole thing. So I suspect they know what the potential problem is. They're just keeping very quiet about it. So that's what I've always done to developers that do stuff like this. So I just come when they're halfway in their project, and all of a sudden they have half of it done. What can you do with it? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I do want to point out one thing to you, caller and user one. Can you hear me? Yeah. If you look at in the DEIR, under, I have to go look in which section it's under. In their own DEIR.
Adele, I don't think we want to get into details on the Harvard Westlake proposal.
Okay, you don't think so? Well, you know what? I have your email now. I'll share it with you offline. Because you might find that very interesting. Melanie Winter?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I look forward to these items moving forward. I know that many neighborhood councils through the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance and others would be very interested in seeing, I hope there's still a video of the presentation that is going to be viable and can be shared. I know that council members are interested in seeing the video. I know other neighborhood councils would like to see the presentation that we made as well. So I hope that I don't see that really specified here, but I hope that that is still happening, and maybe y'all can
We have an unedited version of the video, and it needs to have chapters and a little bit of tightening because it's just about almost 2 hours of a video. So, and thanks for reminding me. I have to get on. I've got to get on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if people see that, they might be motivated to be interested in the how-to document to test their turf and do other things. And other folks throughout the city aren't interested in item number 3, and they might not be as motivated to get involved with item number 4. But I think being able to see the video, putting it up online and sharing with the other neighborhood councils throughout the city would be of terrific benefit. And I know the council members themselves are interested in seeing it as well. That's it.
Thank you, Melanie. Great. So we don't need to do anything on that item. Now 5, develop relevant organizations and links for inclusion on the Sustainability Committee webpage. That was something you were working on, Chip?
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while, that the neighborhood council should be a community hub for information, and it should be a catalyst for involvement. So one of the things we had discussed is how can we link, for example, from the Sustainability Committee, so someone could sit down and say, how can I get involved? And from that, there could be on our website a list of like-minded organizations, and someone could say, oh, Tree People is looking for volunteers. You link to there'll be a link to the Tree People site. You see their volunteer calendar. They have color-coded opportunities for people to volunteer by day within a calendar, and then you could figure out what's in there. We originally thought we could jump just onto our website and we could actually self-populate those. As it turns out, we don't have that administrative functionality. So what I will do is create a piece of paper that has sort of a mock-up of our website. On that, I will put like Tree People, the logo, the name of the organization, and the link that takes us to their website. I will do that with a couple of the groups that I know. If anyone has an organization that they would like to be placed on our website and linked, give it to me. I will put it on this mock-up. I will then shoot it to Scott, who will then give it to the organization that actually maintains our website, and they will put that together. Are you going to contradict me, Scott?
I'll give you the keys to your sustainability committee. You can put whatever you want. The only thing you can't put are actual pictures. I spoke to Brandon about this, and he was in contact also with the web administrator, Web Corner. And once you have the photos or artwork or whatever, they will populate that part of it. So you can start to put the links in sort of, rather than on a piece of paper, just start populating it on the actual committee webpage, and then Web Corner will then work with us to spruce it up a bit.
Question. Scott?
Yeah.
Can we put up a video on that page?
You can link to it. All of you have everyone who has an SCNC email address also has a YouTube page, a YouTube channel, and a Google Photos. So you can link to those. The video itself doesn't have to go up to the.
Because we could, we could link to the the whole thing about the synthetic turf, the symposium that we did that Melanie was part of.
Sure.
Melanie, this other thing that just occurred to me when you were talking, and maybe Chip, you can talk about this too, is I was just this evening, Tess Taylor at Toluca Lake had a holiday meeting / party. It was kind of amazing because like Nazarian was there, and like all these, public people were there. It was pretty amazing. But I talked to a woman who said, so tell me, what is the Sustainability Committee? Like, she had no idea. And so I found myself like, what? How do I tell? And so I was telling her some of the things we do. And she's like, well, I like that. And I think, and her big thing in life is she thinks everybody should have a food garden in their yard and feed themselves. It was kind of adorable. And anyway, I was thinking just now that it would be really cool to make short 30-minute videos like Melanie and Susan and Chris and Tony and Andrew and Chip, like all of you, like a little video about sort of like what sustainability is for you, or what, and because we all come from a different angle, some of us from plants or trees, and some of us from bees and insects and birds and it's just so. Sustainability is a lot of different things. It means a lot of different things. And I think the normal people in the world, and in the world that we live in, don't have any idea about what is sustainability. What do you think? I mean, I could come over my husband has a good camera, and then I have my iPhone, and we could just record it and put it together, and
why don't we talk about what we would like to do to expand the outreach using our website in 2023? I think part of that's a great idea. The part of making me the star of my own video is not something I want to do right now. But when we had the artificial turf meeting over on Witsit the other day, I felt badly that I didn't hear more about what Melanie had to say with regard to what's going on up in Sepulveda, or that Theodore Payne didn't have more time, or honestly, that Charles Miller didn't have a chance to do his. So I don't know why we couldn't. I mean, Charles Miller, I'm sure, has a website up there. We know that Peer does. We need to figure out who these organizations are that we want to link to, divided by some sort of folder structure.
Yep.
And so we should definitely take a look at how we could do that and make it better. And then
you want to be a star of your own video, Chip? Come on.
That's okay.
I think a mission statement video is a good idea. Talking heads, not so much. That's me. I think you could have certainly somebody like Adele narrate it. Or we could just provide sound bites, but if you want to do maybe a short 45-second or 1 minute, this is what this committee is, and have it embedded on the website or link, however you want to do it. I think it's a great idea. Just take someone to produce it. Chip, do you know any producers?
Yeah, I think it basically in your past life, that was you.
Thank you. That's why I retired from that.
Yeah, but we should definitely talk about that.
I think it's a great idea, Adele. I support it. And I think it's something to look, to talk about. Yeah.
Cool. I like the idea myself. Call in user 1, you have your hand raised. Before we move on to our next topic.
I think what is being done is meritful, but what you need to do to make it more successful, as I suggest, and based on my experience, is to do backlinks. So if you're going to list someone on there, let's say, example, the tree people, and they don't like me because I smoked my cigar up there and they chased me off. I'm not allowed to smoke cigars, I guess, in the pine needles. Is to ask them if they would put your link or your website link on their webpage. So that'll give you a little bit more influence and stuff like that. So
Oh, good idea.
That's the hook. So, and doesn't hurt for them to do it. So just make sure if they do it that you test their hyperlink so it doesn't go to a 404 error because some dummy forgot to put the right syntax. So yeah, it's called backlinks. Just say, we'd like to do this, but could you be so kind to put our web thing under your resources? We'd really appreciate it. If they tell you go fly a kite, then they're not friends of yours. Thank you.
Great idea. Thank you. Moving on to item number 6.
Yeah, and so back to me, this is sort of where this conversation has morphed. I've been working down at the Zev Greenway. There have been a number of people on this committee that have also been down there every Thursday for a long time. Tree people under contract to MRCA had a cleanup from 8 to 11, 8:30 to 11:30 on the Zev Greenway between Whitsett and Coldwater on the north side of the river. And there's a handful of volunteers to come down there. We were talking about getting more community activation throughout the community. How do we do that? One of the ideas that we had bandied around is taking that Zev Greenway cleanup, and it's not just a cleanup. It's not a question of just picking up litter. There's a naturalist there. The naturalist gives a little bit of a pitch depending upon what the audience looks like and what they need. We'll take out some natives. We'll cut back some of the other plants that are there to just make it more workable. We'll plant some native plants. There's some harvesting of seeds, which particularly for kids really gets their attention. And then the seeds are taken up to the greenhouse and tree people and propagated or sold as seeds. So there's a lot of different ways that they could customize a Studio City Neighborhood Council / Tree People co-sponsored community cleanup. And one of the ways we talked about, and frankly, the calendar is run by so quickly, I don't know if we have time to do this, but January 7th, for example, is sort of the last Saturday before a lot of kids go back to school. These high school kids in particular have a minimum number of community service hours that they need to fulfill. And so if there was an event that was join your student fulfilling their community service hours, and we promoted it through Studio City Neighborhood Council and got families down there to do some of the planting, some of the invasive plant removal, we would get good things done. We would help them fulfill their community service. We would get some notoriety as Studio City Neighborhood Council, and people would start to see us as a resource. They would start to see us as a co-equal brand with Tree People. And even if people don't know what it is, it's like Kleenex, they know it's out there. And that would sort of raise visibility. The other thing this would get us to do is introduce people to the river so it became a place in their lives. Even if they were down there once, twice, 3 times a year, for this type of community event, it wouldn't be so alien when they start hearing other things we'll be doing over the course of time, where we're opening up more pedestrian paths, more bike paths, that sort of thing. I mean, to Susan's point, if you told someone that there was a rare and endangered evergreen shrub that was down there that had really cool yellow flowers, but don't touch it because the needles are like, the needles bite. I mean, that would get somebody's attention. It's really a resource that we're not maximizing. So again, like the
You know,
artificial.
what would be also really cool is, I'm sorry to interrupt you a little bit, but only a little bit, sorry. If you had someone like Susan take people and show them some of the bees and the things that she takes pictures of, and do a little nature walk, because that particular strip of the Zev Greenway down there, I took, I can't remember. It was a guy from Audubon and another guy, and the other guy who was a naturalist flipped out at the vegetation, and he said, there's so much living here in that particular stretch because, you guys planted it, 10 years ago.
I don't think it was even that long ago, but you're right. There should be, if Susan doesn't want to have her own YouTube video, we'll do it some other way. But there should be a naturalist table, right? And whether that's Nature Conservancy or whether that's Audubon, we should do that. But you're right. People are saying it looks like weeds. Keep in mind that whole Zev Greenway was landscaped, that was paid for as a carbon offset by the widening of the 405 freeway. When the 405 freeway was widened, the thought was bigger roads mean more cars, which means more carbon, so that there was money that was spun off to create an offset. The shrubs and trees down there were paid for as part of that offset. And you
Wow.
look at it now, and it's a lot of habitat.
It's a lot of habitat. But before I go to you, Andrea, Susan had her hand up.
I just wanted to say I've been keeping a species list for that area, and it's pretty extensive. I could send it to the group if anyone's curious. I have no objection to talking to people about what's down there, but it would have to wait till spring because nothing's happening in this time of year isn't really the best for that.
Well, maybe
and
that's I'd like to set that up to do a spring walk. I'd like to go on it with you,
So maybe
that's something we could put up on the website, on the calendar, and like have the sustainability spring walk or something. I don't know what, that's a terrible name.
Earth Month.
Earth
For
Earth
April.
walk.
Yeah, one other thing I was curious about, this is slightly off topic, and I know you guys got funds to put in this section, but driving around the valley, I see so many areas that border the river or the tributaries or whatever they're considered, and they're just like horrible looking. And I'm just wondering, can there be grants made to try to do something about these areas and, utilize them?
There actually is go ahead. Melanie knows all about it.
No, I mean, this is just what I've been doing for the last 30 years. So, yeah, and what you see is what we've got so far. We actually have the plans for the north side of Valley Heart between Laurel and Radford, have had for 20 years, but nobody's interested in funding it. It's hard to get. Hopefully, with more education about the value of the river and healthy floodplains, we could do better. But yeah, it's also a challenge for us in communities that are well resourced to compete for funding, because a lot of funding for open space and habitat are going either to areas of where critical species are, or in underserved communities. So there's a lot more check boxes to get in line for funding these days.
I don't have a little thing to raise my hand, so that's
Okay. Okay.
Mine doesn't seem to work. Anyway, Chip, going back to your like maybe a spring cleanup and you're talking about involving schools. If you do, I would suggest maybe North Hollywood High School, because I believe they're about the only school that I know of that still has an ag or horticulture program. I often donate a lot of stuff, plants, pots, whatever I have, I donate to them. And those kids are just unbelievably eager to work, to get involved. So we just might want to reach out to that school rather than just stay in our neighborhood. Because they have a really big program and a fantastic amount of acreage over there that I don't know if anyone's visited lately. It's pretty wild.
They don't anymore. They're building on it.
No,
No?
the agriculture department hasn't been touched, as far as I know. All the construction is, I've been in the zone on both the construction site and their farm, their ag area. And I don't think
Oh,
it's,
they haven't built. Oh, good. I'm so
I don't
glad.
think so. I mean, I could be wrong, but there's a full-time, agriculture teacher, and
Yeah,
so
we should,
I just love to include them.
absolutely.
That's a great idea. Okay, is that all for that one? Do we have any public comment on that? Did I already do that? I can't remember. I'm getting lost now. Wow, great meeting, and you did what I wanted to do, which is get done by 8:30. Comment, Chris?
I just have one quick thing to add. So I don't know if anybody had heard today, but as far as sustainability on the wildlife goes, we no longer have wild mountain lions. P22 was captured today. He was supposedly hit by a car, but he's in stable condition, but he had been acting not in favorable ways lately. So just for the future, as far as that goes, we probably won't have P22 in the wild.
Oh, that's going to really upset Richard. Bloomberg.
I
Yes,
thought he
it
was just
is.
captured and tranquilized.
He was captured
Yeah.
and tranquilized. and
I
was
don't think he
being
was hit by
treated-
a car.
He's being treated in a health facility
Yeah.
for a full checkup. He's in good condition.
Yeah,
And just so you know, it's not, P22 is not our only wild mountain lion. There were 4 cubs born just 2 weeks ago, and there are many other Ps out there. So it's
That is
not the
totally
end of
true.
our
And I
mountain
wasn't
lion.
referring to all of them. It was just the one in Griffith Park in that area.
Yeah, that specific mountain lion is
Yeah.
no longer on the roam. He's
Right.
being evaluated and treated for health issues.
There was an early report that the reason that he was staying in the yard that he was in was because he was potentially hit by a car. Not critically, but enough to keep him from not doing his normal thing. So I believe that's what the concern was.
Hmm.
Anyway,
just,
Susan,
I have one more note on the 101 ones.
before you go, Andrew, Susan had her hand up.
Oh, sorry, I don't have that whole thing.
Just a quick comment. Obviously, P22 is pretty important and he's not going to live forever, but thanks to him, I think we have the wildlife crossing going in, and I think that's really important. So regardless, he's made a major impact on wildlife here.
Andrew?
So I went through, I got the 2 documents that Scott emailed. If anybody has any comments, feel free, to share. It's both on the 170 and the 101. So the more information I have, and we can start dialogue with Caltrans, be great. I mean, I believe this is a train that's already left the station, but that doesn't mean we can't, interact and let our thoughts be known. So looking real quickly at it, it's not the boulders in concrete and agave thing that they're doing in Hollywood. It's a lot more extensive, but I haven't read everything yet. So please feel free to read and let me know what you think.
I think it would be really important if when you get your meeting, that you include, specifically include Melanie, because she knows so much about, the native plants and stuff. And maybe Tony would like to be in on that. I don't know. I think, it would be good to do that. Because
What I have to find out is how far they are going down the tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I'm sure they, listen, if they came and, one person showed up, I'm sure they'd be excited to have some people be interested, you know. I'm
Also,
sure-
I'll let you know that everything that the city built with those rocks and the cement is getting torn out. So yeah, the train left the station, but then they had to bring it, haul it back and destroy it. So
Which is so typical for the city, right? Yeah. Are there any other final comments that anybody wants to have?
I move we adjourn.
We move to adjourn, second,
second.
Andrew seconds.
Second.
I'm so happy we don't have to do